Quick disclaimer, sorry if the audio in this video sounds a bit off. I do have a cold right now. Nevertheless, let's get right into it. Now that free agency and the majority of the draft have concluded, we can officially begin looking at next season. With that said, welcome to my tour of the NFL. First stop, NFC North.
On the track.
Coming into last season, I viewed the NFC North as the most interesting division. The Vikings a Super Bowl team, the Packers another contender with A-Rod back at the helm, and the Chicago Bears potentially making the playoffs for the first time in what felt like ages. That is not what happened at all. Chicago cruised through division with a 12-4 record, and they were the only team to even qualify for the postseason. The Packers and Vikings crumbled, and the Lions looked even worse than usual, despite finishing a decent 6-10. But now it's a new year, so what's changed? The division-winning Chicago Bears maintained their strong roster. They lost Adrian Amos to the rival Packers beside a struggling HaHa Clinton Dix to replace him. What's so interesting about that signing is how different they are playstyle-wise. They also lost Bryce Callahan and defensive genius Vic Fangio to the Denver Broncos. However, I still believe the defense will be one of the league's best with superstars like Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, and Roquan Smith, who will no doubt be a top 5 middle linebacker in the league not too far from now. Wherever there isn't a superstar on this defense, there is at worst a really solid player. Danny Trevathan, Leonard Floyd, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, and Prince Amukamara. My concerns are offensively. Matt Nagy made this offense play a lot better than it should have looking at it on paper. He also gives himself a new multifaceted weapon in Cordero Patterson, who can play in the backfield and as a receiver. He also joins Tariq Cohen in the best return duo I've seen in a long time. They also got rid of the slow ground-and-pound back Jordan Howard, for better or for worse, and replaced him with Mike Davis. They also landed the number 2 running back in the entire draft with a third-round pick in David Montgomery. Overall, I don't see a big drop-off for Chicago, and assuming Trubisky continues to improve, this team will likely win 10 to 13 games. On the other half of a rivalry that has so much bad blood for two teams that have never been good at the same time is the Green Bay Packers. While they did somewhat bolster the offensive line, we saw no new weapons given to Aaron Rodgers and new head coach Matt LaFleur besides third-round tight end Jay Sternberger, who is currently listed as third on the depth chart. The defense did improve with signings like Adrian Amos and Zadarius Smith, as well as drafting the absolute stud at free safety to play complement of Amos and Darnell Savage, which was one of the best picks in the entire draft. They also selected Rashawn Gary, however he is not slated to play much in his rookie season. Overall, I did not see a big improvement in this team, and I see them winning somewhere between 5 and 8 games, missing the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. The NFC's most disappointing team in the Minnesota Vikings did not change much this offseason. They drafted center Garrett Bradbury and a second tight end in Irv Smith Jr. Kirk Cousins' second year under center should be interesting. However, I would like to remind you that Kirk Cousins was only under fire when it was clear the Vikings were out of the playoffs. The first half of the season saw no one attacking Kirk, so don't act like you didn't believe in him all year unless you're like me and didn't like him in Washington, which is very few. Nevertheless, this is still an amazing defense who had an off year, and the offense is still talented. I see this team winning anywhere from 9 to 13 games. Don't forget that this was a Super Bowl favorite last offseason. The Detroit Lions. I could honestly have ended the vid with that Packer segment, and no one would have gotten mad. Not that they're an awful team, just not that many people seem to care about them. They seem to be the definition of an average team. Matthew Stafford is simply an average QB. Kerryon Johnson is a guy who will get you 1,000 yards, but is not a special talent. Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, and Danny Amendola is a respectable receiving core, but not one that coordinators lose sleep over game planning for. TJ Hawkinson, while incredibly hyped, does not seem to be a generational talent, such as Rob Gronkowski, like I've been told. On defense, the pass rush should perform well with Snacks Harrison and Trey Flowers. The secondary contains one of the top corners in the game in Darius Slay, as well as speedster Quandre Diggs. However, the defense lacks any other talent. Their direction this season is unclear, as they can either tank from the beginning of the season or actually try to put up a fight. I see them winning somewhere between 4 and 7 games. All in all, the Chicago Bears will win this division at 11 and 5. The Vikings not too far behind at 10 and 6. The Packers will miss the playoffs 3 straight years in a row, going 7 and 9. And the Lions finished last again at 5 and 11. That being said, we have finished our tour of the NFC North. Next stop,